Hello and welcome to the day 3 of Rise of Shadows. Yesterday during the live stream I managed to come up with 5 budget decks. Also I played few games in Legend with them. It was something between 10 and 20 in order to find the perfect version. I had a pretty good results because the lowest win ratio is 50% win ratio, even above 60. So those decks are pretty powerful and they perform pretty well, mostly against tier 1 decks and tier. First we'll start with the token druid. The huge advantage of this deck is that we can generate a ton of tokens, and at some point our opponent will just run off removal, especially with 2 copies of the Forest's Aid, and because we can also replay this, so basically it counts as 2 spells, and even if it's not as that powerful when you will play this right away, but just the power of the twin spell makes up for it. So there are a lot of control warriors right now, at least in Legend, and then really they have only 2 brawls and also 2 warpaths, and that's it. And then you can just continue spamming all those tokens. So during the early game we do not have a lot of options, like only for example Ooze or Acorn Bearer, maybe Dreamer Guardians, and a little bit later on the fun part begins when you will be able to, for example, develop Whispering Woods and play Soul of the Forest. So this is like the main combo that you want to make your board unkillable and then burst the opponent, or just, you know, like buff your tokens. So during the early game you just, you know, keep any kind of 1-drop or 2-drop in order to just develop the board, then go for the landscaping. Archmage War God is it's a legendary, but actually we got this for free. So in the full version you can include Stalandris over the Acidic Swamp Ooze and also change the Double Dendrolysis into Crystal Song Portal. Midrange Hunter is still a really powerful option. This is a really simple deck. You want to try to play beasts on curve. The curve is also super powerful because during like every single turn you can develop a really huge powerful. In full version, the only inclusion might be Zul'jin, for example. Instead of 1 Savannah High Main, then you will create a really huge powerful board, especially because of the Unleash the Beast, but also then you will draw even more cards. And why this deck is so powerful, not only because of the mana curve, but also because you can actually draw a ton of cards pretty easily, and on top of it, even if you will run out of beasts, this shouldn't really happen, but you've got Dire Frenzy in order to shuffle even more stuff into your deck. But the big bonus of this card is that actually then you've got the buff the beast and you can actually draw this pretty easily just because of the Master's Call. This is one of the most expensive budget deck, but the cost is still less than 3k. I decided to include 4 epic cards, but they are super essential. Preparation will allow you to cheat a little bit on the mana curve and also, for example, buff the Questing Adventurer. This is one of those key cards that sometimes can win you the game on its own. You just play this when it will survive and your opponent won't be able to take care of it. Well played, you just won the game with the combination of all those small minions, and especially because of the luckies. So also why preparation is so important, because we've got the Raiding Party. This is one of the most powerful cards in the whole deck, because not only you draw a ton of stuff out from your deck, you get the specific cards, but then you will get the Woggle Pig and also Dread Corsair, at least most of the times. So this means that you can cheat on mana, and this is a really powerful effect because you play more than you should. So then basically you are faster. And also Woggle Pig, it's a pretty good card most of the times if your opponent won't play any kind of Ooze, because with the Death Rattle you can get additional bonus out from your minions. Most of them rely on the Battle Cry, so then you will just get, for example, additional lucky or just card from your opponent deck. So yeah, this just means that you will get more value. The other synergy might work with, for example, Sovsidekhen in order to deal additional 2 points of damage. It's not much because usually in this deck you should include Leroy, and I really recommend this. If you, for example, have Leroy, change one of those Sovsidekhens or Ooze in order to include this in your deck. Once again, there are 4 epic cards, but they are super essential for this deck. There are like 2 main tactics. The first one is that you just develop Murlocs on a curve, get a little bit of additional value with, for example, Underbelly Angler. This card is really powerful, not only because you can play this on a curve, but usually this will survive. So then on the follow-up, you will still get few Murlocs just because of this effect, and also you can play this in late game and then get even more Murlocs. So this is a super powerful thing. And the other way how you can play with this deck is that you want to focus on the Thunderhead. So then because of the overload cards, you will create those little sparks. This will allow you to not only control the board, but also you will get more tokens. This means that then Bloodlust works pretty well, and not only we've got the Bloodlust as our win condition, but a pretty powerful Rain of Toads. This will overload you, but at least you will create the board and protect other minions that will be created behind the town, so it works pretty well. And for example, if you will have enough mana, even with the overload, you will be able to play Bloodlust with all those toads and the minions hidden behind the town. And on top of it, we've got Sunriver Warmage. The cool thing about it is that not only stats and the Balacry are pretty powerful together, because you get a pretty nice amount of value, but also at the same time you can control the board or just be aggressive, because you can also deal this 4 points of damage into opponent face. So this is a pretty powerful card and a good addition. And also on top of it, we've got the Storm Chaser. Yeah, I know it's a little bit weak against, for example, Bomb Warrior, because then you might draw the bomb, but at some point you deal 5 points of damage to yourself, which is not a big deal when you play with aggressive deck, and you still get a card. So like, okay, you managed to draw the bomb, but you get additional card anyway. Plus also on top of it, if you will get rid of one of your bombs from your deck, then the Blastmaster Boom will be worse, because then there will be less bombs on board. I think this is the cheapest deck out from the bunch. Usually Warlock and Hunter are super budget friendly, especially the Zoo Warlock, so this is also another pretty straightforward deck. You just develop minions on curve, you hard mulligan for the 1-drop. Flamemp is usually the best card to just play on turn 1, and then as a follow-up usually something like the Knife Juggler to just start juggling and having some sort of better board control, because you can just, you know, target those minions. In the full version you want to include Leroy Jenkins instead of Dark Iron Dwarf, and also the Solarium is such a perfect card, because then you do not really have to deal damage to yourself, and for 1 mana you usually play just all those 3 minions. I mean, like, you play this after turn 5 and then you will be able to usually play all the cards that you will get, and then just replace one Young Priestess in order to include the Solarium. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, remember to leave a like and subscribe. If you've got any kind of questions, ask them in the comments or just during my live stream. I will be live today. And also today I will drop the video about the best decks in Brawlicium. I managed to get 12 wins with the Tempo Rogue. I'm not as that happy about it, because I used a pretty common deck, but you know, 12 wins are 12 wins, so